Hey, good morning traders. Welcome to 2023. Let's take a look at the major indexes and see if this little rally that we're seeing is going to be the start of something new, or is it just a relief rally in a bear market. So we'll start with the S&P 500. Literally, I want to point out that if we go back to sort of the major highs, we can see these big swing points here reacting, and then we have this false break here back on what day was that? The 13th of December, where we saw a big spike up, and then we've rejected that longer term trend line. So we've been respecting this trend line now since back in January 2022. So nearly the best part of a full year. I think on Friday it will be a full year that we've been respecting this trend line. And now if we then just hunt down and go into this little zone here, so we're just going to drop down to like a 4-hour time frame, and if we break this down, what we can see right now is we can see these short-term trends that we're getting progressively higher highs, and while we were still respecting the 39.15 level through here, we've got old resistance becomes new support and tested that support again. But ultimately there was a support trend line that we can see that we respected here, here, here and here, that broke down. Now shorting opportunities through this area, I would say, is a little bit more difficult because you've then got another support level here at 39.15. So before we wanted to get short, we wanted to see both of these areas broken, and then we can start looking for shorting opportunities, which that market did get that move. But then we've been in a consolidation period throughout the festive period, and we're still sitting in that area. So basically I'm looking at the S&P, and due to the higher time frame picture, my bias for the midterm is definitely to the downside. So what I'd be looking for is to see how price reacts at 39.15, and I'd be looking to see some sellers stepping in at 39.15. If price fails, remember it can still come up to the descending trend line here, still print a lower high than the previous major swings here, and still rotate lower. For more bullish or for a more positive outlook on this particular index, I'd want to see price breaking above the long-term descending trend line. So in the short term, where's the smart money moving? Well, the smart money is trading this market long up in towards 39.15. That's if you're scalpers, so or day traders, so to speak. So what I'd be looking for is a corrective move back into, let's say, 38.60s. Where we can see this short-term old resistance that could potentially act as new support. I want to see buyers step back in, and then we could look to run that back up into 39.15, and that would be where I'd be exiting any potential trade. Short opportunities, not something I'd be interested in this consolidation area. I'd be much more interested in shorting opportunities from 39.15, and then failing that, should the market break down from where we currently sit, without giving any trading opportunities, then I'd be looking for a break below 37.80 through this area here. So I'll just highlight this for you, where we can see support level. I just want to see price come down, and then we'd look for that rotation higher and a short from 37.83. So you can see how the S&P's broken down, and that's the way I'd be looking at it. If we go back to the daily chart, it's not something that I use, but I know a lot of people that like to trade indexes do use those moving averages. We can see that short-term 20 moving averages rolled over, pointing down, while the 50's just gone back above. So in terms of do we have the moving averages in numerical descending order? Yes, we do. We've got the 200 above the 50, above the 20. So the short-term moving averages rolled over, it's pointing down. We've got that effectively, you could say it's a short-term cross of the moving averages. But I'm just a big believer in, I can see what's happening with price, and if I can read price, I don't need the moving averages, which kind of highlights what I was looking for. Price to run up into 39.15, looking for the shorting opportunity. If we don't get any rejections, we look for price to run up into this descending trend line, looking for the next shorting opportunity. Moving over to the NASDAQ, well, the NASDAQ looks like it's printed a base at 10,668. We are looking at this on the daily chart right now. Very similar to the S&P, we've got this long-term descending trend line price didn't quite make the trend line here, but you can see we've got a rejection, another rejection, rejection of that horizontal level at around 15,200. Another major swing high printed here. We see this market continuing its nice downward trend until we form the base, and then we have that short-term movement to the upside, very much like the S&P. You can see the similarities. The channel that was printed in the short term here was a lot less aggressive. We've got a nice rising wedge formation that broke through this support level here. So how can we look at potentially trading the NASDAQ? So we're going to drop down to a lower time frame in a second, but where we can see that the market has printed a base, then we've broken the highs. Short term momentum is pointing to the upside. We could run up into 11,264. We could potentially run up to 11,400, but we're obviously going to have to look for confirmation. I'm not just going to trade that as I've just discussed. I'd be wanting to see the market. If I'm going to go long, I'd be looking for the market to potentially pull back into this area here, and then I'd need to see buyer candles printed around the 11,000, and then we could look to trade that long up into the next resistance level. If we do highlight short-term structure that has been broken, we can see that this sort of descending nature that we've seen here has been broken. Those high, oops, sorry, I didn't print that in. We can see that we've got a similar sort of descending wedge that's been broken. It's printed a new high, so that's definitely pointing to more short-term movements to the upside, but based on the higher time frame picture, I don't really want to be looking at major sort of longer term moves to the upside until we get above this descending longer term trend line that I highlighted with the S&P 500. Where we will see a nice area for more shorts and extended moves is if we get a break below this support level here around 10,700. So watching these key price points, but I think ultimately short term, those day traders that do like to get involved in where the market movement or the money flow is going, is I think we could see a pullback into sort of this area and then running up to 11,400. Now the Dow Jones is slightly different. It hasn't had as much a correction as the S&P and the NASDAQ. You can see it's still running relatively high in comparables, whereas the S&P and the NASDAQ have basically been touching those previous lows. So we're going to see more downside in the Dow, or is the tech sector and the S&P 500 going to continue to decline at a faster rate than the Dow? We are at an interesting price point now here at 33,400. A break above here, we could see short-term moves up towards 34,400, 34,300. But on the flip side, a rejection here, I wouldn't be so keen on selling it here, but what I would look at is this ascending trend line that's acting as support here on the 4-hour chart. If we can break below this, that would show that momentum in the cycle pattern that we see here has changed. We can see that these moves to the upside are getting progressively weaker. This impulse is smaller than this impulse. This one's a lot smaller. And you can see that those moves to the upside are getting smaller. Yes, it is through the festive period, but ultimately they are still getting smaller. So we need to see price significantly break through this resistance area before we can say, right, well, price is going to head up into this next area, or we're going to rotate lower. We're going to break through the counter trend line, and that's going to pave the way for some really nice downside. So that's it for our index update, and there'll be more videos coming out this week.